Hey guys, and welcome to episode 8. This episode was super long because it contained the live trial. So I'm going to try and run through all my notes as quickly as possible for you guys so that this particular episode doesn't run to be too long. I know I am uploading these so randomly and I'm really sorry for that, but if you have seen my vlog, which I will have linked down below and up in the iCard for you, you will know that my laptop got broken, and so I am running off my iPad and my iMac, and I am getting things edited as quickly as I can for you guys. So thank you for being patient with me and working with me and watching this content. So let's just get on into this video. So the just general goings on between campmates and the atmosphere, we got to see what it was like for them sleeping in that close proximity to one another, and James is a serious snorer. So he kind of kept Jacqueline up, but when she figured out that if she coughed he moved, she didn't and ended up going back to sleep and had no more problems. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. And when they spoke later in the morning, she happily told him about it. They had a good giggle and he admitted that his wife had had issues with him going to sleep in the past, and so he wasn't surprised to hear that Jacqueline had had to cough to get him to move so she could go back to sleep. Also, while we're on the topic of sleep, everyone in general started to talk about sleep and who had had what sleep. Dean and Andrew had had a conversation, and Dean was sleeping great, as was James and Jacqueline, and it seemed like Andrew was still really struggling, bless him, and he's just not getting as much sleep as he would like, which would explain his kind of moodiness and why he's getting grumpy and not necessarily being the greatest campmate to everyone either. We also saw more of Jacqueline's reaction to finding out she had to do the trial, and she was obviously upset, and when she went into the Bush Telegraph, she admitted to being worried she'd let people down, she couldn't get the stars, and that she felt there was an awful lot of pressure on her shoulders, and she just felt like she couldn't let anyone down, and she took herself off to the bedroom where she had a little bit of cry into the pillow of all the pictures of her kids, and that was a super sad moment. But after being left alone for a few minutes, Ian and James made sure to go up there and tell her that there was no pressure, that she only had to do as best as she could, and that Ian was going to be there with her, she wasn't going to be alone, and that they knew she would do great, and no matter how many stars she came back with, everyone would be happy with that as long as she did her best, and she possibly tried. Worst that Hammond did, she had to say, "I'm a celebrity," and they'd still be happy about it. Jacqueline, Caitlin, and Nadine were all sat down by like the little ravine slash pond area talking about people, and the fact that Jacqueline realizes from doing the jungle that she does care what people think about her, and she doesn't really know why, but she does. And this happened after the trial, which I will talk about, and Caitlin said it was really sweet to see her come in and tell them how many stars she got and how proud she was of herself and how it reminded her of Kylie, which was a really sweet bonding moment because Jacqueline got really excited and happy about it, and you can see that friendship and relationship growing between the two of them, and I do see them talking once they leave the jungle, which will be nice for both of them. And while they were also talking about sort of what people thought of them, they started talking about Caitlin and her transition and sort of the things she'd done over the years and her surgeries and Vanity front cover and things like that. And Caitlin was very open about being on hormones years previously in the 80s and then having to have surgery and things like that now. So she was very honest, and when she sort of asked questions, she's happy to talk about it, which I think is good for Caitlin, but it also brings awareness to just people and the transgender community in general. So everyone got a little bit snappy after dinner, well, particularly after the Dingo Dollar Challenge and then dinner. They were all talking, and Andrew tried to get everyone to discuss it a little bit more instead of just going for the first answer, and he felt dismissed by James and Ian, I guess, and it led to a little bit of an argument until Andrew walked away. And while this argument between James and Andrew was going off, Cliff decided to sing Let It Go from Frozen, which I have to admit I did giggle at, and it brought a real sort of climax to the tension that had been going on, and it clearly cheered up other people, and it showed the public Cliff's funny side, which I think was good for Cliff in the show, honestly. Andrew did obviously walk off, and he was coming back towards camp when James went to go find him and talk to him and apologise if he felt like dismissed him. He just sort of wanted to make sure that everyone had sort of had their say, and he felt like everyone had agreed to an answer, and he didn't realise that Andrew was just trying to figure out if that was the right answer or not, and he wasn't meaning to be complicated. It's nice that within the group they're still super close even now during their disagreements, and they're able to talk out their differences and grievances. When dinner came, everyone was kind of super disappointed that it was this giant eel, particularly with how many stars that Ian and Jacqueline had won. But once it was cooked and chopped up and with everything else, they were actually really impressed by it, and they all seemed to think it was the best meal they'd had in camp so far. But sadly, it wasn't long after dinner that Kate and Roman came into camp with a giant board to inform everyone that they would be divided into groups, and the group that was going off to win care packages, they would be kind of going off and doing their own thing, and then the rest of them would be going into the live trial, which I will talk about with all the other trial and the dingo challenge in just a few minutes. And they had to decide on which order to put their names in, because whoever had a star next to their name would get to go for a roast dinner. And so all the men decided that all the women should go first, and James wanted to put his name last and no one would let him. And there was a bit of a fight between Kate and James about it, because Kate wanted to put James before herself and James wouldn't let her. And to be quite honest, I think Kate was just trying to play the martyr on that front. Everyone else had agreed that all the women should put their name down first, and I think she should have just said thank you and been courteous about it. But I guess everyone is a little bit different. It wasn't about a gender thing. They just wanted to be kind, and they wanted to make sure that girls as they call them, were all fed, and that makes perfect sense. So it was decided, and in the end they had an order. But later on, Jacqueline admitted to Miles that she felt that Caitlin, who's 70, had been doing the washing up and helping around camp a lot, should not be fourth. And so Jacqueline, bless her heart, switched hers and Caitlin's names, because Jacqueline wanted to make sure that Kate got a roast dinner, bless her, and so she changed it. No one seemed to notice. When dinner was being cooked, Cliff fell asleep but woke up the minute that dinner was finished and ready to be eaten, which I think we all know people like that. Particularly at Christmas. It does remind me of Christmas when people just suddenly wake up for Christmas dinner. I got a good giggle out of that one. After dinner and the whole putting names in orders to get stars, for some reason an argument between Ian and Andrew kicked off, and I'm not entirely sure what happened. Andrew said Ian was shouting at him. Ian asked Andrew to explain because he didn't think he was. In the end, it sort of exploded, and Ian ended up shouting at him, telling him not to come and talk to him and not to call him out in front of the group like that. And after a little while, Andrew went over and apologized. Ian told him not to cry, and Andrew was like, I'm not going to cry, I just want to apologize and be honest with you. I thought you were shouting at me. I'm not entirely sure what I thought you were saying, but I thought you were angry at me for something. I'm obviously too tired and delirious, and I just felt like today I was the verbal punching bag for the camp between everything that happened with James earlier to then, and Ian accepted that. He understood the situation and told him he didn't want him to feel that way, and if he did, he should come talk to him, which I thought was very sweet of him. He didn't have to do that, and Andrew agreed that if he felt like that again, he would go talk to him. So it's nice to see that Andrew has been able to make a friend on that emotional level. Moving on to the trials, we're going to start with the Dingo Dollar Challenge. So that was a quiz show game all about the campmates. points. So this challenge was done by Kate and Roman, and for every right answer they got, they earned $10, but they also got covered in powdered paint. So I asked a question and they got given 3 celebrities and they had to pick which one was the right answer. So for example,
who has a crush on Ron Weasley? It had to be Jack.
Had to be Jack.
they had to say A, B, or C, sit down at that number and then press the button, and if they were right, a puff of powdered paint would cover them and they would earn their 10 dingo dollars. And they did this until they got 100, and that seemed to go by real quick. When Roman was playing Camp Quizmaster, he purposely called Kate every name but Kate, which was kind of funny, and you could see Kate playing along and pretending she was frustrated with him. And when they did finally get their money, they headed up to the shack and they had to decide between jelly beans and salted nut peanuts, and they decided to get the jelly beans. The camp got the right answer, even though there had been a tension and fight about it at the time, which was the James and Andrew confrontation I had mentioned. When Kate and Roman brought back the jelly beans, everyone was thrilled and they savoured them very much. So I do have to admit that the Dingo Dollar Challenge seemed to go by super quick, but again, that was probably because of the editing. You never know. So on to the first trial, and that was just the average trial, the Crevice of Cruelty. This was again done by Ian and Jacqueline, and they had to climb underground into 2 tunnels. One had water, one didn't. Ian was in the water one, Jacqueline was in the normal one. So she had to face snakes and spiders, and Ian had to face water lizards and crocodiles, things like that, toads, and he had to pass the stars through different obstacles and up to Jacqueline, who then had to put them in her bag. Before Jacqueline got in there, she saw a spider and she had a little bit of a meltdown. She started crying and freaking out, but Ian was really good with her, calmed her down, told her she needed to say it, it was okay, and everything would be fine. And considering he's the one that gets the most grumpy about food, I thought that was very sweet of him to do. But a part of me does wonder if Ian told her that, because a part of him wanted to say it, but he didn't want to say it being the man. But Jacqueline was determined not to say it, and she was really good at it. Bless her. She was really panicked and she did freak out a little bit, but she did it and she proved herself, and hopefully, considering she did this trial and the live trial, she won't have to do anymore. Jacqueline's favourite word of fudge came back, but she did swear. She did swear during it. But I think Ian also swore. Jack did shout fudge mudge a lot. While Jacqueline was in the tunnel, she did sing to herself. She also sang to Ian to try and get him through the crocodiles when he was freaking out, and she thought she was only getting 2 stars at one point, and she left him in a tunnel and he was freaking out about that too, and that was kind of funny. And the fact that Jacqueline had to go back because she missed a star made her swear. That's when she swore. Ian started off really calm. This is the funny thing. Ian started off really calm, but the minute he got to the toads, started freaking out. Something about the toads started to panic him, and every kind of next tunnel he went into, he started to freak out even more. And the more Ian started to freak out, the calmer Jacqueline got. So that was kind of funny, and so it's sort of role reverse, where Ian was the one being calm and cool-headed and was calming Jacqueline down, and by the end Jacqueline was the one who was calm-headed and guiding Ian through it and telling him he could do it and it was fine. She didn't really want to be in the snake one, but she was doing it, she was singing to herself and she was coping. Obviously Jacqueline could hear and deck better, so she was relaying information to Ian, telling him how many stars was in place and what he had to do to get the stars to her, which did actually help keep Ian calm and also on track for what he had to do. Jacqueline did have to hype herself up a little bit to get into the spider tunnel, but when she was in there, she did really good. She concentrated on the task at hand. Same when she went into the snake tunnel, she kept herself focused on getting those stars and getting out of there, which is exactly what she needed to do. And then right at the end, because Jacqueline didn't know if she got all the stars, Ian had already left, left. She didn't realize she could get out, and as Ian had thought Jacqueline had already got out, and found when he got on top she wasn't there, he went climbing back in that tunnel to get her. And I thought that was a really sweet moment. It was very sweet that he was willing to go back into something that he was truly frightened about. As Ant said, no man left behind. And when they counted out their stars, because they weren't entirely sure how many they got, Ant and Dec lost track, they got all 12 stars. And when they went back to Camp A, Jacqueline was so proud of herself, so thrilled. Ian was super proud of himself, but he was even more so proud of Jacqueline, and everyone was thrilled. And that's why Caitlin said she was reminded of Kylie from how Jacqueline had come in super proud after being so nervous about doing the trial. And everyone was thrilled about getting such a big dinner for that night. And moving on to the live trial. The live trial was the Love Jungle. It was based obviously on Love Island. It had 4 rounds, and I guess I've named them. I don't know if they were named, but they had a pie off, a critter dump, dip in the crock tub, and snaky behavior. So in round 1 it was Jacqueline. Caitlin went first, and her pie was full of like offal and fish guts and slime, and she got her star super quick, like well into the first 15 seconds of her 30 seconds, and she got it out, put it on the side, and she got Adele her her roast dinner. And when asked what advice to give to the others, she said just do it, don't think about it. And she also told Jacqueline to hold back her hair. When Jack went to do it, she had slime and mealworms. Again, she got her star within the first 15 seconds. Ian went third. He had slime and cockroaches. It took him a little bit longer, not quite the full 30 seconds, but we were getting there. He did put his hand in originally. He did put his hand in after originally getting it, because he was cocky and dropped the star back in, but they let him have it, as he did get the star out twice with his mouth and put it on the side. In round 2, it was Cliff, Adele, James, and Roman, and they had to sit in a line and pass pig testicles only via their mouth to one another, and they had to get 6 into the bowl. And once they got 6, they had all 3 stars. And surprisingly, they had great teamwork. They did it really quickly. They only dropped 1, and after that they managed to do it really well. Cliff was picking up those testicles super quickly, and they were passing them along super well. I mean, there was a very intimate moment between James and Roman at one point. It was pretty intense. Round 3 was Caitlin, Andrew, and Ian, and this was a dip in the croc tub. So they were all sat in a massive hot tub with baby crocs added to it, and funnily enough, all the crocodiles were attracted to Andrew, and they all had to drink different foul drinks. So Ian had a milkshake / cocktail of blended cockroaches.
Now, Andrew, this drink is called Caroline Yak, and it is blended cockroaches. And you must drink this in its entirety to win another roast dinner.
Caitlin had a blended up cocktail of vomit fruit.
This, Caitlin, is called the Ian Hurling, which is made up of, of blended vomit fruit. You must drink the entire drink in 30 seconds.
Fruit. And Ian had a blended up cocktail of pig's penis.
Come on, Ian.
How is your gag reflex, Ian?
It's not good. I didn't do good the other day.
This drink is called Casa Agol, which is made up of blended pigs' penises. Blended pigs' penises. Blended pigs' penises. You must drink the entire drink to win another roast dinner.
All got their stars. Andrew and Caitlin waited for the klaxon and did it in the 20-25 second mark. Ian didn't even wait for the klaxon, he just chugged it down. He did look like he was going to be sick after it though, but according to him, he never threw up, at least not while they were live, which was great, and that meant that they got the next 3 stars. And in round 4, it was James and Roman. So they laid in a bed, 2 snakes put on them, and they had 3 boxes, and they had to stick their hands in and unscrew the star. James then had to pass it to Roman, who had to screw it all the way back down to the bottom, and they had 90 seconds to do this, and sadly they got no stars. And honestly, I know that Ant and Dec have come out and supported that trial, but I think it was unfair, and I don't think it was doable, and I think they knew that. Those had had quite small boxes and they had a giant crab in it. How was that possible? James really struggled with the crab, as did Roman, and you could see that James was angry, like really angry. First off, because Ian, Cliff, and Andy's name were the last three. James really wanted to put his name at the bottom, and I think if his name had been at the bottom and everyone had let him to put his name at the bottom, he wouldn't be angry. But he was really annoyed, and I think he was annoyed at everyone. He was annoyed at the show, he was annoyed at himself, he was annoyed at the crab and at Deck, he was annoyed at his teammates for not letting him put his name at the bottom like he wanted and stated, all the way through them saying what order they should put their names in. So I think we're going to see the fallout of that in the next episode, which will be a little bit sad, but we'll see how James takes to that. And that's really where the show ended. So they got 9 out of 12 stars, which is better than none, and hopefully the others will get their care packages in episode 9. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, do give it a big thumbs up. Also click the subscribe button down below, as well as that notification bell. Also do check out my other videos, my vlogs, and obviously the rest of this series, and I will see you all next time. Bye.